once again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were up in New York last weekend, and you played 2 dates, again with the Harvest Time Project. That's in honor of Pharoah Sanders, the rotating cast of musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you had some family come in, and people that came to see you said that they felt a sense of healing and maybe a certain burden or something lifted off of them after hearing you play. I was wondering if you can comment on that.
Well, I personally had very little, if anything, to do with it. But the situation was a celebration for sure. And we were performing in the spirit of Pharoah Sanders, which is uplifting. See, and I think that carried us all, which is what its purpose was, to begin with. Pharoah, who I knew personally and very directly, and for a very long time, and very musically, I knew him musically, was all about the upliftment, helping people feel better, and if possible, teaching the people how to make their lives better, you see. So it was all about actually a dharmic basis, even though we can say, he was any particular dharma. This is about the character of the individual, and we know where he came from. So it was an event that enabled all the players to feel and contribute to the upliftment that the music was more or less implying was the reality in that moment. The music was an uplifting dance of life, and so that's what the people got. See, they didn't come in with that, but when they got into the turbulence of the music and the sound and the feeling and I guess you might say the clamor of the music and the drums and all of that together, it was a celebration. It wasn't about people coming down. It was really about people being lifted up and out of themselves, like rejoicing to the heavens, praise Spirit. See? And so it was every bit of that, and I enjoyed it. I enjoy playing anyway, but I definitely enjoy playing in the spirit of what that was about, or is about as it moves forward. Thank you.
Yeah, so Bapu, I know you as a special certain type of musician, a free musician who is always playing for the healing of other beings, and we were just having a discussion on the porch here.
Drama first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drummer. Yeah.
Always drumming, right? Circle of the drums. For healing purposes. Native drumming for healing purposes. For everyone.
And we were talking about Dharma practice and musical training, and I was wondering if there are certain parallels between the two, or if one can aid or help the other, or if, maybe for musicians who are looking to open up more or have more of a spiritual quality to their music.
Well, the gurus would say it's all the same. There's no difference. In the event of music, it's more about sound and hearing. In the event of the regular Dharma, it's more about study and, specific wisdom, understanding and wisdom comprehension, to learn how to be a better human, you see. And so when we're talking about dance, on the other hand, it may not be about that specifically, but it's about healing yourself through the music if you can. That it is celebratory, and the Dharma is celebratory too. So they're similar yet different. They're similar, very similar yet different. Because when you're happy, you want to sing. You want to sing out of your joy, or maybe you want to sing out of your sadness. That is also the Dharma. To be conscious of your sadness and conscious of your joy. And then to be beyond everything altogether, which is very important. You know, it's the beyondness that implies the emptiness of reality, regardless of what you're doing or who you are. See? It's, for the most part, what you are being beyond being anything.
So on that same subject of musical practice and training, as well as dharmic training, would you recommend, or, you know, I know certain people say to study the masters, you know, whether it be jazz masters or classical music masters, so then should people be studying the Dharma masters in conjunction with that?
As needed, if they need it, you see. They are similar, but they are two different disciplines. Okay. One, at the extreme level, teaches you to sit and be empty of your mind. Gone. And the other one is, you know, be your mind and be crazy. It's possible. So you can celebrate what it is in theatrical, dramatic sort of expressions of sound and light and celebration, let's say, depending on the case, whatever the situation is. You know, you have music for funerals, you know, and you have music for births, newborns and dying, two extremes, different tones. So we respect the differences and we respect the sameness of these two disciplines, extraordinary disciplines. See? And people try to find healing in both. See? And relative to the spiritual teachers, it's good to hear what they're saying too. Because what they're saying, depending on what it is they're saying, can help get you beyond, let's say, the barriers that exist in music, which too often makes you think you know who you are relative to sound. So then the Dharma teachers, the gurus, the wise ones, will help you go beyond your self-image altogether, whereas in music, you know, people are trying to capitalize on their image, on their sound, on their product, and it's more about material business, see, than transcending it. People don't want to hear the word transcension, they want to hear the word invention and convention, see. Whereas you have the opposite of that in the Dharma in certain instances. You have the teaching that is about nothingness, very serious nothingness, emptiness, radiance, gone, see, transcendence, and then you have, you got to learn those notes, you got to learn the pattern, and then you got to be the pattern so you can play it 1,000,000 times over and over again, as if that's who you're supposed to be in that moment. So it's about cluttering up your mind as distinct from emptying yourself, of becoming void. I know it's about becoming busy. So it's about business and voidness. Avoiding the business, right? And then realizing the void. Because we are asleep and we are awakeness simultaneously. We have to keep that in mind. Who are you when you sleep? Who aren't you when you're awake? It's part of it, you know. Seeing from both lenses. The lens of the extreme introvert and the extreme extrovert. Sometimes it's both, one or the other.
Yes, so then on this musical and dharmic path, is it about quieting down?
Silence and noise. Noise and silence. They coexist, and yet they're separate directions at the same time. And they're also, let's say, built into us as humans. So we are both, and sometimes we have to know how to be one or the other for very specific reasons. See? So we need to know ourselves well enough to know when to be silent, when it's urgently needed, and then or when to be musical when that's urgently needed. Proceed.
So then, would you say ideally the musician would get to some kind of inner knowingness, so that way they know what to do and when?
The inner knowingness you speak of then is contingent upon who the musician knows. See? Because you progress by knowing someone more than yourself. That's how you progress in music. You look up to the teaching system, see, and you look up to the masters of that school of practice, and that is the same in the spiritual Dharma, see, because we're talking about accomplishing certain, let's say, perfections, getting beyond suffering, getting beyond human nature is the essence of the Dharma. See, negating suffering, negating the individual who imagines or thinks or believes they're suffering something or other. Right? Like self. Right? And it's similar in the music. And you have to keep unfolding. You go to one school and then the next school. If it's schools, you have to work your way through. If it's music systems that you have to work your way through. See? Categories of music. Whether it's classical to jazz or jazz to classical, or sometimes they're merged. See, it's neither. See?
Somebody might start out by playing more, simpler forms, rock music, blues, and then.
Well, some have to. It's not like they might. Some have to. That's the intention, is to progress and be the best. Ultimately, that's what's in the artist's mind. They want to be the best, and they want to find the quickest way to be the best, right? So that they get all the goodies. Before long, as soon as possible, they want to be the greatest. Ta-da! Here is the greatest, of all time. Right.
They call it the GOAT. The GOAT is the greatest of all time.
Okay. So, and that's part of the paradox of it all. See, because when you become the greatest of all time, were you ever not the greatest of all times? It's what you've been, but then you've always been you, and then all of a sudden you're doing certain things. You are doing certain things, and you become fantastically, brilliantly, and superbly known for. I said, wow, nothing's changed. Maybe stuff that's been added on to the tree, but nothing changed. The same person, the same being, the same spirit. And then some people who evolved to a certain place will say they always knew. See? You got children that say they know what they're doing and where they're going, and they actually accomplish that. There's a consciousness of the evolution. And then in some people, they don't know and they don't need to know because it's built into them to happen anyway. And they're surprised. And, oh my goodness. How did I get here? How did this happen? Universe. It's all about the universe. See? And it begins at birth. You start to become conscious of the interconnectedness of the whole scene, see, of life, or the whole dream of life. See, the whole meaning of life. It's all there, and it depends on how you perceive it and what you do with it. I perceived it, no one's asking me, but everyone knows, who knows me, as a thing to play to. And so I became a player, a baby player. Father was a drummer, so then the line is there. It's like I can't be proud of that. I'm being what the line determined. It's inherited drumming, and so maybe mostly mechanical, for all we know. But the drumming is there. It's passed down. How you use it? To what extent do you use it? For spiritual purposes or for making money? Business purposes. Neither is wrong or bad. Depends on the individual. So it's individual awareness behind and motivating whatever happens, and it should be conscious. So people should be aware that they're aware of what's going on, so that they can either do it better or do it more, or renounce it altogether and change games. That helps rather than obstructs a person's evolutionary possibilities.
So in terms of our discussion, we've been discussing, musicians, musical practice, and dharmic practice, and I was wondering how this relates to genius. And
Genius might be a separate entity altogether. See, could be a motivator, could be an inspirer, as a source. It could be a distraction. It could be a benefit. It could be a gift. It could lead to greatness on the positive side or greatness on the darkest side. See, so it then implies extreme motivation or ability, power, intelligence, or knowledge, or wisdom. Extreme. And also, sweetly speaking, to the breaking point. It by itself doesn't know or have any limits. It's just more, deeper, more intense, more brighter, blowing point. Right, so it's like a bomb, and it can be that. It can save you, it can destroy you. In that way, the genius is a demon. Could be a good demon. It could be a bad demon. A force of the unconscious. See? Or the force of the superconscious. See? Or the force of the no conscious. Or the all conscious. That is genius.
so we were discussing genius, and I know, at least in terms of thinking about musical geniuses, I started to think of who I equated that with, and most of them did themselves in. Most of them did drugs or died at a young age, and I was wondering if you could speak on, I see you as a musical genius, and I was wondering if you could speak on how to how to use it without being done in by it.
Well, you have to love it. You have to love the music. You have to love the music more than yourself. And if you love the music, you can easily love it more than yourself. See? And so that is not a response that could be generally applied to all of the instances since time began where gifted people committed suicide, so to speak, killed themselves, drove themselves over the edge. So, now, a lot of that has to do with blood karma, who your ancestors were, and what's unfinished in their accounts as human beings living lives the way that they lived their lives, for better and for worse, hustling, living, working, educating, loving, family creation, say, business creations, occupational creations, all of these things. It's really the give and take between the person and their object or their creation. Okay. So can we stop people from destroying themselves? Who knows? Who knows? Is it good or bad that they destroy themselves? Is there something beyond themselves that is about their time to go and the way that they have to go? Who knows? People can think about those things. Did that person really kill themselves, or was it something in them that killed them? Or was it a spirit? Was it an influence? Was it a demon that killed them? You know, was it their own fears that killed them? See, so it's always a complex hodgepodge of who knows. Was it this? Was it that? Could it have been all of these things together, or nothing? Or nothing killed that person? Maybe they killed themselves, or they were killed by their own emptiness, their own nothingness, their own uselessness. It's possible. And then, is it good or bad? Good question. Is the killing of oneself good or bad? Could it be divinely ordained? See? Is it ever necessary to kill yourself? This is crazy, but we have to wonder. We're all interested in the psychology of that because it has to do with human nature and creative genius. Why? Is it too much for the individual where they bargained for too much power and then they can't handle it and then boom, they're out of the picture? It was too much for them to handle. The ego exploded. Possible. Is it perhaps useful to tell people that if you have talented children or extremely talented children, you better keep an eye on them? Because they may be demonically driven but don't know it because they love what they're doing. So what's demonic about being a musician, right? And so then you start to counter pressure the person, or testing them. If you have children, you want to try to balance out their egotism relating to or regarding their self sort of implosion relative to the wonder of their abilities. Whoa. So it could be leading to self-destruction, say, or miscalculation, which often causes people to make mistakes, say, misjudgment, miscalculation, say, not knowing exactly what they did or are doing, and then not knowing where they can turn it around or where it should be stopped somehow. And we do have people who go through that particular predicament. See? And they say, uh-oh, went too far with this. Yikes. We were just playing around, and then all of a sudden, boom, somebody's gone. Or some bodies are gone. See? So then it's a matter, essentially of conscious practice, practicing being conscious. And that could be fanatical as well, you know. You can be overconscious, but maybe it's better to be overconscious and minding your steps than to be less conscious and not minding your business or your steps. Yeah.
Yeah, so my question is, you know, there's a lot of people who imitate geniuses, you know, and specifically we're talking about musical geniuses. Is that the kind of thing that can be learned, or can one study geniuses in order to bring out the genius in themselves?
Of course. One might already be one and not know it. So sometimes it depends on your time, circumstance. See, that's like saying geniuses don't know they're geniuses. Sometimes that's the case. And many people think they're geniuses when they're not geniuses. They have no power at all. You know, no real creative intuition or whatever. But they're satisfied by thinking they are that, and so they carry themselves accordingly. And they may know a little bit about something, but maybe not really at the genius level compared to other, you know, respected geniuses. So you can learn about it. You can open to it because we all have the same original potential for spiritual enlightenment. In fact, in the traditions, you're called already Christhoodness. Your heart is Christ heart. See? You're also called the basic essence of Buddha nature. See? Buddha, emptiness, clear being, so on. See? So that's original. It's there, and then you know you're born with the purity of it, and then depending on what your karma is and what's dumped on you, so to speak, you may not have access to that purity after a certain time, or depending on what you do with yourself and your life. You know, as you can imagine, people in jail who had genius, and then all of a sudden say, "Why did I do that? Oh, that was dumb." Jeez. I said cheese. How stupid could they be? And then all of a sudden, you know, that's where they're supposed to be. See, so it's drama without seeing the actual origin within oneself of what's going on and what it's creating for ourselves, consciously or unconsciously. See, so we need to be aware of that. So the spiritual traditions offer, in many cases, a way to better understand what you are and what you have and how to use it more properly, put it to good use. And sometimes that means you have to be dabbling in programs, let's say theories maybe, or practices where the ego is not built up. Sometimes the ego built up equals a certain type of genius capability. People want to see an egomaniacal actor or comic. See? People don't want to see an egomaniacal Boeing 707 pilot. They don't want to hear about that, but are there? Yes, of course. Mm-hmm. No doubt. Comment? Or presidents. Wannabe presidents, and so on. See, as the story is going on now. A wannabe president. And a poor example of a president, but, you know, people made him president, and so he has to deal with that, or the person must deal with what they're given. and really try to be the best of whatever it is you're given to be. We would expect that, from the level of, I guess, majestic intelligence. Just be the best you can be. Oh, you're the best at it? Can you be the best at it? And why not? Oh, you are the best at it. Can you be better? Is there more to go in your case in terms of your development? Have you reached your limits, and so on and so forth? Because we're dealing with consciousness, mind, and a certain kind of infinite capability that we're born with. We hardly use any of it, in a sense, sort of chop ourselves down or distract ourselves into oblivion. I think I'm going to watch the ball game today. Really? You don't want to play pool with us today? We're having the championship. You got to come and help us win the championship. Come on, Charlie. No way. Okay, so, comments? Did that not answer your question? So how does it come? It can come anyway. It can happen out of a dream. Hello. You can dream you're one and actually be one. You can dream you're another person and actually be that person. It really depends on the psychic field or psychic structures that you were born into to utilize from your ancestry. Who knows how many generations back you have to go, in a manner of speaking, to achieve the powers of an earlier ancestor. Sometimes it's reverse, sometimes it's forward. See? How far up ahead of yourself do you have to realize yourself to be in order to be what you need to be in the moment?